When is it?
Time.
Where at?
Like where we want to be. Start where to show up. Where would you like to get your tour? I did V-dubs.
Do shades this time.
Shades is so slow anymore.
Their service.
I mean, I like their menu, but man, their service is so slow.
They do kind of trousers.
Yeah, I think I made a comment on Facebook. He never commented back. I know, but maybe I shouldn't have said anything. He was sitting with his wife. Guy, me and Jeff graduated.
Was in Dallas, but he come up here a few times a year for inventory and auditing and stuff.
I forget which place is it out there. One of them.
Hendricks.
Friday's football games at home. Hall of Fame.
30 shows yours.
Hall of Fame introduction. Induction.
Induction.
Who they play?
Riverview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got anything this year?
Who, Heath?
Yeah, I know we got a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Who did you play? He's
What?
Academy again.
Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Effective.
We're ready to go.
So we're good at the skill positions and we don't have a line. That would be
That is a Heath. That is them.
typical Heath.
That's right. No. Small line.
Here's delinquent accounts.
Lots of speed all over.
That's a
Wants
skill
to look,
position
pass
player.
it on down,
Those
whatever.
big bulky dudes in the middle.
That's exactly right.
We'll send that out to the county. But that's we only have one. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and talk a little bit about water. We're still doing that abandonment program on Route 79, and we're pretty much finished with that now. It's been completed. Now we have a few things that we have to repair, mainly we have to repair the road, but then we also have to do some work with the valves in the middle of the road. We want to make sure that the valves are dug up and plugged so that nobody accidentally turns any water on somewhere or causes a leak that they don't realize. The water main will remain in place, but it'll be abandoned. That's what we've done with most of the water line in the middle of State Route 79. That's how we've dealt with it. The expense of digging it up and removing all the pipe and everything in the middle of Route 79 would cost a fortune. So what we do is we just dig up the main valves and so forth, plug them off, and abandon that section of line. What that is, and I mentioned it before, we get rid of about 2,000 feet of water main that's in the middle of Route 79. Update on our AMR system. This is another update from the other day. Looks like John Appleman will start putting installs in right around September, the end of September. That's when we'll start working on it. I received a bill for $350,000, which none of that will be paid until we know that the system's up and running. But a lot of the equipment and stuff's been sent down to John Appleman's facility, a distribution building. So August 28th, looks like the 400 base stations are scheduled to ship. Week of September 14th, the construction will start installing in base units and antennas. Week of September 21st, Census will configure and set up the base stations. And the week of September 28th, test smart points will be installed. If no issues arise, City of Heath can begin installs at each location. Linville Road water tank update. This has been very interesting. We're looking at some different style tanks now. The cost of the concrete style tank has kind of increased beyond possibly our costs, but that's something we can talk about a little bit. Basically what happened is we had Burgess and Nigel has a modeling of our system, and they found out that the tank was going to have to be raised 8 feet taller than what was originally anticipated. So that increased the cost. Also, the engineer forgot to include site preparation for the installation of the concrete tank.
Seemed like that would have been important.
Does the engineer's house a bill that really should tear up and throw away?
Begin to turn it away, we'll do it, we'll do it.
Now,
Not doing a very good job, is it?
the additional height, what was,
What they did was they ran a
And didn't
scenario.
we have to go 6 feet farther down as well?
Well, that was part of the site preparation that
Oh,
didn't include.
they did.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. You did not include it in that.
All right.
The other thing is the main object of putting a tank up at these levels was we had better pressure in the River Oaks addition. We'll increase pressure in that River Oaks addition, and then we will do away with a pump station in the River Oaks addition. Now, the River Oaks condo has pretty good pressure, but the River Oaks addition up on the top side does not have the best pressure. So that will help out with that. Then we'll do away with the pump station that takes care of only Laurel Oaks by raising this tank and keeping it at the level that's needed. Burgess and I ran a study with our modeling and determined that the tank needed to be 8 foot taller in order to do away with that pump station out on Laurel Oaks. So to kind of, if you look at your last page, you'll see some of the other tanks that we're looking at. It's not totally out of the picture, but I think we're going to find out that in the long run, we may be better off with a different style. On the first is the groundwater tank that we originally anticipated doing. That now has moved from a $1.4 million job to a $1.8 million job, just rounding things off. The aqua bolted tank with the concrete bottom, which is very similar to, I'm gonna put this on full. It's very similar to that. That would be a newer style. I mean, that would be an alternate style that would be looked at. Now, it won't be that tall. This portion of it here will only be about 15 feet above the ground, the concrete, and then the tank sets on top of that. Also, you can store things inside here. In the side of it, you can put a garage door, and you can actually use that to store it. We can put equipment inside there. We can put equipment that's going to run, keep track of the automatic meter reading system. That type of equipment can go in there. The mixer that's inside of there, the components that run that, the light on top of the tank, all those can be put inside that too. That is a cost of 1.5, which is in our budget. I budgeted $1,563,000 for this project. Okay, so that is within the budget. Now the next one, the third one down, is a glass line tank. It's just the top portion of that. Yeah, I have a picture of one. It looks like what we have in our other locations. Okay, and I have problems, and it's been hard for me to get over the construction of these tanks. They're basically a bolt together tank. Even this tank here is basically the same thing. What's nice about this kind of tank is it gets it up in the air so that all the water that you're using is distributed through the system. When you go on the ground like this, it'll be taller. You're using the bottom portion of the tank to hold up the water to get you pressure. That's all that water. So, you size the tank so that it turns over in a pretty good manner. The additional water, this would become a 560,000 gallon tank if we do the bolted style from the ground all the way up. Okay. Cost of that's only 1.2 million.
The volume benefit is only about 350,000 gallons, the same, right?
Right.
You're really not utilizing, you can't use the volume because it's creating pressure at the bottom.
Right. You're using it as a concrete. You're using water as a concrete pedestal.
Gotcha, yep, okay.
the capacity on that one there is 565,000.
565,000. Yeah, I'm sorry, I knew it was 560 some, but 565,000, which is a lot of water for that end of town. You know, and use it, keep it fresh, and keep it mixed, and sometimes you run into
Can I
problems.
ask you a question?
Good.
If a tank that size and at that elevation would allow us to do away with the pumps up on Laurel Oaks, is it tall enough to allow us to do away with the water tank on Blue Jay?
That's a good question.
Good question.
Could that tank supply the whole east side with pressure, especially at that volume?
If you did away with the pump station, that's a totally separate pressure zone.
Yes.
That's over there where you live.
Yeah,
Forest
water,
Hills.
the pump station down there where Watson and
What
Blue
you
Jay
would do
Fork
is you would-
pumps it up to the Blue
Yeah,
Jay
You
tank.
would take away, I'd have to look at it. I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
There's plenty of volume there, 565,000 gallons.
Yeah, but the problem with that volume though is when you get down the bottom of the tank, if you think you're gonna use it all because people are consuming a lot, they're gonna have no
You're
pressure.
not. Yeah.
Your pressure's gonna be gone.
Your pressure is only in the top
That's what
portion
you
of the tank. Yeah. But that is an interesting question. You know, we've already got the infrastructure in over there. We're moving this to a higher level. That would be a good question to look at, check into the model. We're doing some modeling questions anyway. I gotta do some. That would be an excellent question to put in when we have B&N look at another.
Okay.
Because we're looking at another issue that John Appleman wants to look at. If we have to bypass the WCLT tank. Okay.
You mean if something
If
happens?
something happens that we couldn't fill that tank.
Yeah.
Which I think in the back of his mind is that old WCLT tank we now have. You know, if anything would happen, that we, spring a leak or something like that.
Yeah.
Can we still get water over to the east side without that tank? That's something we're gonna plug into the model too. So I think we need to add your question too. Well, do we really need, since we're moving this elevation of this tank up,
Yeah.
could we backfeed everything from this new tank into that? And what would the volume have to be then? I mean, would it be go from 350,000 gallon tank to a
Because how big is the Blue Jay tank?
Blue Jay tank's 250,000.
And the WCLT tank's 150. Right.
The old one or new?
The old one, the one
The
we
old
currently have.
The one that we currently have is about 133,000.
Okay, so not quite one.
Round figure.
So we have not quite $400,000 of 400,000 gallons worth of water up in the air on the east side, right?
Right.
That's why I'm asking if we had 550,000 or more gallons up in the air on the east side,
Good question.
would we be able to do away with the?
What would be nice is if we could do away with the Blue Jay pump station. Yeah, that's pump stations, one of those pump stations that's underground. I don't know, some reason back in the mid-60s, they wanted to put everything underground. I don't know why, but so a lot of vaults and pump stations were underground.
As the crow flies, it's not that far from where the new tank's gonna be to Forest Hills.
As that crow flies, I need to find out if that crow's flying uphill or downhill. I can look at that myself.
I bet you it's flying down.
You think it's flying downhill?
Yep.
I would say off the top of my head, maybe.
Because it comes back uphill to get to the tank.
Right.
And then comes back downhill as you go down Brookshire and get into where it
Very
is.
interesting question. Next time we meet, I'll update you on that.
What's the age of Blue Jay tank?
Blue Jay tank's about, I think we were figuring today it's getting right around the 20-year mark.
And its useful life is typically.
That's an interesting question.
What was the question?
Useful life of the bolted style tank. I asked that question to the engineer today.
Oh.
And he
say?
didn't know. He was going to get back with me tomorrow because I'm concerned about all these bolt together tanks we're putting up. What's nice about it's because it's bolted together.
Yeah.
That's why. And I don't really have a reason because the 2 tanks that we have not given us a bit of problem. They're glass lined, so there's no maintenance on them. You know, you don't have to, like a steel tank, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. By every 8 to 10 years, you have to spend about, I don't know, they claim now to really do a good tank, you spend anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 on repainting a steel tank about every 8 to 10 years. So these tanks that are bolted together, that are lined with this glass, you don't have to worry about it rusting. You don't have to worry about it. You know, my concern is, and I actually asked them a question. There's another municipality that actually tears those tanks all the way down after every so many years. There's a rubber gasket that goes in there on each one of those and helps seal that. That's what seals that tank.
Where they bolt them,
Yeah,
They tear it apart.
They tear it apart and reassemble it.
Hmm.
There's actually a municipality that does it. I can't understand why. I've never known. I mean, we've had one for 20 years, never had a leak or anything.
It's bolt style tank?
It's not that. That's what he was telling me today. I had a meeting today on the
Jeez.
tank.
What do you have a hard part about the bolt tank if we have that?
This is my concern over a period of years as you get a cold, then it gets warm, then it gets cold. And you know, any kind of metal or anything. My concern is, do those rubber seals on that wear out? If we have to tear that whole thing down, rebuild it, they're telling me it's still not quite as expensive as painting one now. So maybe there's no concern at all with it. The other concern, Jeff, that I had is target shooting. People target shooting with their guns. Shoot a hole in that, and you replace the whole panel. I guess there is a way of plugging it temporarily, or some kind of method that they have, because I've talked to them about it. We've never ran into this issue, but basically a shotgun can put a hole through it. Someone's out deer hunting and they decide they want to take a shot at the glass line tank out there, they could possibly put a hole in it. So that would be a concern of mine too.
I haven't seen the steel tanks that the shells that thin.
Well, the tanks aren't. It's not real thick, but it's glass lined. But
I can understand with cracking the glass line on the inside.
A high-powered rifle maybe, but I don't think a shotgun. I don't think a shotgun can go through. You?
I don't know. I don't know. It probably depends on how
Depends
close
how
they would
close
be,
too, yeah.
you know, and that kind of thing. I don't know.
We've never had
Let's
it.
get the mayor out there and have him get some
That'd
target.
be precedent setting thing, if somebody shot a hole in it.
It's what
That's never occurred.
never occurred. Never occurred. Although this is a little more isolated than some tanks that we've ever had. It's not one of those where you can see it from the road real easy. It sets back and away.
It's isolated as it relates to the city of Heath. It's not necessarily unique as it relates to Ohio.
No, it's not. Anyway,
Is any security
we can put
thought
security.
about,
We
you
can
know,
put
like something that would tie into the police station, or,
yeah,
you know, light it and a camera?
we can try our best. You know, there's things we can do. We can do motion
Yeah.
detectors. There's different things we can do. But
If you're
chances
concerned
are
with
that
you can put something to detect vibrations. Because gunshots certainly have that tank reverberate.
oh yeah, and we would probably know pretty quick because
Yeah.
The cycles on the pumps would change as it's draining. So we would know. Pretty quick.
I just figure, I'm just thinking, if we end up with a situation where we're pushing 600,000 gallons of water in one tank,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you can eliminate the Blue Jay tank and have the whole east side of Heath using that one tank,
Mhm.
you're gonna get your turnover of water. You're not gonna have to worry about your residual chlorine as much, because everybody on that side of town's gonna be using it.
Mm-hmm.
Cost benefit analysis here. What are we saving? You said eliminate a lift station, what else are we saving?
Well, you wouldn't have to maintain,
Well, you wouldn't.
you wouldn't have to maintain the Blue Jay
costs.
tank itself.
Electricity's done.
Electricity's
Electricity's done.
a
What
bunch.
else, what else we save on money?
Right, yeah.
What's that?
Electricity costs. is a
Yeah,
bunch.
I mean, that's a pretty hefty pump station down there. That's a big one. That's a big one. So, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's a pretty good electric bill. You know, for us, one of our bigger ones. So, as far as pump stations concerned. The next one, go ahead.
Before we move on,
Mhm.
back to it. On the concrete tank,
all concrete, which is the style tank.
did the engineers forget to tell us that there was a major expense, or where did that slip through the line? Did we just not?
The
It's
site
think about
work,
it.
the site work, I would probably say you'd have to pin on that. The fact that it needs to be 8 feet higher, not necessarily, because Burgess and Nyepel did our water model, a few years ago now. And it was when Burgess and Nyepel started plugging these things into the water model, into the data that they already have for the city. It was Burgess and Nyepel that came back and said that tank's going to need to be 8 feet higher in order to do away with the pumps there that service Laurel Oaks. ADR would not have had that information.
So probably the biggest majority of the cost, I would say, would be the raising of the tank. Minor, the actual site preparation is probably a couple $100,000 mistake. I'm guessing.
So is there something else that could come to the surface on these tanks that, or is this from the engineer?
I asked him today. That's what I had the meeting today for, was to verify these numbers with him and make sure that everything was checked and double checked. Okay. And he tells me this. Okay.
How can we be confident?
Well, this is kind of the way I relate it to it, Jeff. It's like kind of like when you go to a doctor. He's going to do his best to kind of fix you up. And each doctor does best they can, but some of them just don't do what they think they're going to do. And I say engineering's kind of that way. And you know what? We don't go back to the doctor and say, my finger just isn't quite bending like you told me it was going to. You go to another doctor. You go to another doctor.
But the first one still gets paid.
Yeah.
The second one will say, hey, we had this before. Well, you got it again. Oh, it seems like we've had a problem of extra money flying at us.
I'm telling you, on every project I've ever done, and I've used, I don't know how many engineering firms, and I'm telling you, there's always something somewhere that gets left out.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what project it is. I don't care if it's a road. I don't care if it's a tank. I don't care if it's a wastewater. I don't care where it's at. Every single one of them I've ever worked on, something comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Accountability.
and that's why they put contingencies in. That's why we put, whenever you do a project, there's a contingency fund, because you never know. You never know what you're gonna get into. The last two tanks are steel style tanks. The one is a concrete tank with an all metal top, not a bolt together, but an all metal. And then the last one is a petosphere, which is the one you had in your back page, next back page, which is on my favorite style tank. I mean, if I had to say it is, it's kind of my favorite. Yeah, if I had a favorite, what I like about it is all the water gets up. It's solid steel. Don't get me wrong, there's maintenance involved in it. Every 8 to 12 years. Yeah, every 8 to 12 years.
So John,
So nice.
I see these seams here.
Those
How are these seams
Those are
sealed?
welded.
They're welded?
Welded. Yeah, welded tank.
Did you drive to Myrtle Beach to take your picture?
I did. Now, I'm I'm gonna turn in my bill.
Well, yeah.
So, but I had to stay at one of the fanciest places down there.
Only place that was available, right?
And then, of course, I had, dinner delivered to my room,
Were there any engineering firms in the building at all? or-
But so that's my last question, was it would be all right if I turned that bill in?
You can turn it in.
I can't.
Include your bikini.
So, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We'll make a decision on which one we think needs to go there. There's a lot of alternatives. We can revisit the rate study model. I really don't want to get into that. We've got other projects that need to go forward with tie-ins. We have a tie-in that needs to be done on the west side. We have a tie-in that needs to be done on the east side for a dual feed on both. So, we got to kind of be frugal with our money. Kind of the way I'm leaning right now, it would be this style tank, concrete bottom with a bolt together tank. I think you're probably going to get for the money.
What's the third one on the list? The middle one?
That is the second one on the list.
The second or the third?
Second.
The other one is the lot bigger tank,
That's
standpipe
the one
tank.
that's real what?
That's the one that's got a lot of water that you're not using, that holds the water up. And my opinion is I would rather get the water up in the air and utilize the 350,000 gallons of 15 feet. But all that water is used to pressurize the tank when you don't
But
have
if
tank.
you could do away with Blue Jay Road,
If you do away with Blue Jay Road,
that capacity on that third one there.
that may be a better bet.
Be-
Maybe a better bet.
Or below the rate study.
Yes. And it's quite a bit cheaper.
It's what?
It's the third
Yeah,
one's quite a bit cheaper.
Well, significantly below the rate study amount for the increase in utility rates. And.
Yeah,
Well,
John,
I-
I've, when we met last week, I heard this and you mentioned it again, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around this idea, and I'm just not getting it. You make the comment that the concrete puts the water in the air instead of water putting water in the air. What does it matter what puts the water in the air? I mean, whether you've got concrete putting it up in the air or water putting it up in the air,
Right.
it's still creating the same pressure.
Right.
If 250,000 gallons of water is used by the east side in a day, your pumps are still going to have to bring another fresh 250,000 gallons of water up into this tank. So I don't see what the big deal is.
There's not a big deal other than the biggest concern is that you just have a lot of excess water and not enough usage. Okay.
Your chlorine residual.
Right.
But
Chlorine residual, but Doug makes a
if the
point.
blue,
Right.
like Mark says about, the mayor's talking
it's
about the Blue Jay
possible,
doing away with that tank, how big is that tank, you said?
560 some thousand.
No, I mean.
250
Blue
on
Jay
Blue Jay.
is 250.
250.
Yeah, but if you had to take that tank out of service for repair and maintenance, where are you gonna get the water? If you eliminate a Blue Jay.
If we have to take that tank out of service, the question is going to be how are we going to get water in the Blue Jay tank? Because the water to the Blue Jay tank is going to come from this new tank, just as the water currently in the Blue Jay tank comes from the WCLT tank.
Right.
The water comes from the plant to WCLT. From WCLT, it gets pumped up to the Blue Jay tank.
Yeah.
So we're still reliant upon something else in order to get the water over there in that Blue Jay tank.
On this one, how does the water come out of the tank on number 3?
It just comes out of the bottom of the tank,
At the bottom.
at the bottom.
So it's actually,
If you're looking for your best bang for your buck, I'm not gonna deny it.
no, I'm not
that's
talking
your
about
best
that.
deal.
You're concerned about
Middle one?
the top
the
part
third
not having, but isn't it gonna go down, and how does it get filled back up again?
It fills, it comes in the bottom, it fills, and it goes out. So there's one pipe that fills it, one pipe that there's different styles. You can do different styles. But the style of tank that this would be, at least know the concrete would, there's one pipe that fills it and one pipe that goes influent and effluent pipe at the bottom of the tank.
Is your concern there's nothing inside the tank to induce stirring, so you got some section that's stale?
We plan,
Just sits-
right, but we plan on putting mixers in anyway. But still, it's a big volume for what we figured, for what the engineer figured. I think, Mark, to answer your question, that's the only reason is the engineer and John Appleman too. I mean, when we had the meeting today, they would rather see that water lifted to its highest potential. And I think the engineer's concern is you're lifting it with excess water that may not get turned over. Your pump may only run maybe once a day to fill it up or something like that, and you're not going to get to turnover in water. If the water isn't turned over, you get the formation of trihalomethanes, which is not good because that's a derivative of chlorine in water that sets for too long and gets stale. You got to remember, everything's engineered for a reason. That's why this tank was sized at 350,000 gallons, was because of the turnover. Now, it did also allow for future development in that area. The 350,000 gallons does allow for the future development in that area. Another thing I want to tell you about these bolt together tanks is it's $18,000 to change the color. If you want it to be, there's only so many colors that's offered. There's green, tan, white, and the dark harvester blue, which is that one I showed you. That's what all of our other colors of our other tanks. Okay. I like the dark blue. What they do is these things, the glass line tanks are heat treated somehow, and they heat treat it, and then it goes back in. What they have to do is they have to bring that process back through again, repaint it. If all of them come out this color, they send it back through the process again for reheated treatment and paint it again. So that's why the additional charge. But anyway, I forget what I was going to tell you. Something about that tank. But anyway, that's the bolt together's tank. If I think of it, I'll bring it up later. And those are the costs that's involved. I think we can run a pretty quick study on your question there with the engineer. And we may not have to
Because
go
if we
through.
could do away with that Blue Jay tank, that solves your water usage problem.
Right. I don't think we'll need to visit the model on that. I think that's something that we can pretty much look at pretty quick and find out.
Yeah, what elevation is
What
this? What elevation is that?
And where are we going to be? If we're higher on one than the other, there's a possibility. You know, and how much higher?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
so
an aging tank anyway. So its useful life is 10 years,
which one? The
Blue Jay,
Blue Jay?
5 to 10 years.
Jeff, I would say 50 years. That's that. I mean, if I just had to throw a figure out, they don't want to pin you down. I mean, as I'm looking at different tanks and the life and expand them, you know, it depends on your elements and where it's at, what kind of weather you have, and there's a lot of things that play into that. So you don't get anyone that just comes out and says this tank is going to last you 50 years.
What style is the WCLT tank?
It is a
Bolt
steel
together?
tank. No, it's a steel tank,
Steel.
solid steel. It's been there.
What's the
The top of it's been there since 1954.
Wow. 60 years. 61 years.
60.
And we are having some concerns with the top of it now.
61 years. So these got
It's older than you, Jeff.
Still not as old.
and you.
And
That old dirt engine.
What kind of maintenance we have to do to lots of different stuff?
you spent money on that tank, maintenance wise. Glass line tanks, that one that's 20 years old, I haven't spent a dime on it. The only thing I've done to it is power washed it off.
The CLT tank is like number 4, steel concrete.
And it would be just your, it would be like a pedisphere style. The pedisphere is more expensive to put up, but
CLT tank
it's
is?
solid steel. It's solid steel. It's all steel. Which pedisphere tank is all steel. The next one to the bottom is a concrete steel combination. Okay, you got concrete, and then you got a steel welded tank on top of that. Third one.
The one
is
by your house, is it bolted
That's
together?
bolted. gentleman says, well, why would you want that tank up there? I said, why? That tank's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Has to be one resident up there that says that.
I said, that's right. I said, I wouldn't want to look at anything. John Appleman said, well, I drove by your house and a great big tank sticking out says Heath on it up there. And he goes, that looks horrible. I said, well, I think it's beautiful.
There you go. So you can live out there.
That's right.
One resident's proud of it.
It's,
No stuff.
I have no problem with that tank at all.
I think it looks good. So your favorite tank's the most expensive.
Well,
Are these ranked in order or just
there's
random?
no
The
ranking.
favorite tank would be the,
Concrete?
If I had the money, the Petasphere I like a lot, and I like the concrete tank. Those two. If we had any amount of money and we wanted to throw at this project, those were the two tanks that I would look at. And I would decide between those two.
But our rate study is for $1,500,000 something.
1,563,000, which puts two of the tanks in that line. It's number 2 and number 3. Number 2 is a bolted tank with a composite concrete at the bottom, and the third one is all bolted, like what we have in our other locations.
It's like when we get virtually
And
nothing for
300
cost
pounds.
overruns and all these
And if you go west Blue Jay Road, you're gonna get money back on the electricity.
I'm guessing
That
that-
pump.
We'll look at that, but I'll get back with you. Mayor, I'll get back with you probably tomorrow. But you guys probably will find out. I don't want to tell the next meeting, but
Number 2 is glass, right?
number 2 is glass line, filter line tank.
Which you like, you do like that.
I like
Well,
that.
you haven't had to do
That's-
much work on your glass one, you got that, you set it on the power
For
line.
some reason, we're shutting down.
It's
I was
on
afraid
pedestal.
of that.
Now, the first one, how's it lined?
The first one on the list.
the concrete ground.
No, he's looking. The second, you're looking at the second glass
Now,
line.
the first one, concrete ground. Is that
That's
just-
solid concrete. That's this one right here. And it actually has steel lining in the middle of it. There's concrete, steel, concrete. That's why that tank's expensive. And how they prepare to put it up is expensive. Bolt together tank, you'll see that tank go up in a week.
Over 20 to 30 years. Are we just looking at the total dollar here, or?
It's your preference. If you want to see that tank, if you go to the, what's the industrial park out here, the Etna Industrial Park, what's that called?
Yeah.
Prologis?
Prologis.
If you want to see a tank exactly like what we're looking at, that's what's there.
But that's not gonna tell me anything, drive by and looking at it in front. I'm just saying, if this is cat's ass,
Mhm.
do we want to think about spending that money if it's that much better? Now, if it's not, we don't have to worry about it. But over a 30-year deal,
50 years.
How about 60 years?
Well, where I have a problem with options 4 and 5, and I don't mean to belabor this point, John, I'm sorry. Where I have issues with options 4 or 5 are the maintenance required every 10 years or so. All right, I mean, just to keep adding the price tag to this for the number of times that it's going to need to be maintained. Whereas the top 3 options are not going to require any of that maintenance.
You're correct.
If you're talking.
And
50
can I say that the glass
$100,000
line tanks we've really had problems with? No.
every 8
I can't.
No.
You know, I mean, I can't.
Well, you're not gonna have a problem with that thing either, right?
What's that?
Concrete? No, you
Concrete?
shouldn't.
I personally kind of like the
Isn't that the
idea
same-
of a
That's a concrete
They,
solid
uh,
tank.
Right.
liner
And that's a
inside.
similar size in terms of
This is
Yeah,
what we
that's
were.
right.
diameter, right?
This is what we were originally looking to do.
But this one is about the same size as this number 3, correct?
They're both what?
350.
350.
I'm sorry.
No, number
Three,
5.
three is
This-
much bigger. than this.
565.
Much bigger.
Much bigger. It's much,
Well, you're, again,
circumference is a lot,
right.
but height-wise about the same.
What they're gonna have to do is they're gonna have to build that foundation up on that concrete tank to get it to the height that they need it. Okay, and
better be one hell of a strong foundation.
That's why you're looking at that cost, 1.8 million.
Maybe to be sure, we should have the next meeting in Myrtle Beach.
I think so.
You mentioned Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
What's in the picture?
We wanna be thorough.
I don't wanna make a decision with all this money without really being thorough.
Your decision.
Okay, so, we'll be making a decision on this pretty quick. We'll be deciding what direction to go in. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can go with the concrete style tank. I think the mayor makes an excellent point. The top 3 tanks are maintenance free, pretty much. Don't get me wrong, I mean, sometimes the concrete tank will sprawl or do something, but they tell me that they go back in and fill that concrete in, and it's not a big deal. You know, you'll get some like flaking or something like that, and go back in and over a period of years.
What do they have to do? Drop the level of tank, do the repair?
If it's on the outside, they don't have to do anything.
Oh, on the
It's just-
outside
If it's
you're
just
talking
deteriorating
about.
on the outside, which would more than likely where the problem would be.
We have to keep the Blue Jay Road one intact with the concrete.
Yes. I would think so. Cause 350,000 gallons ain't gonna be enough volume for the whole east side.
I wish I could say off the top of my head if that's gonna work, but until really looking at it, I can't tell you.
Cause remember I think this is it, right, John? Isn't this it? No,
No.
that's for international.
What's the
drive.
timetable for making this all decisions and this construction project moving?
Timetable right now for this is construction, and if we get the OPWC 0% financing, some of that construction will start in July of 2000.
Here's the tank location.
Nothing before next summer.
Nothing before
So
next summer.
we're not pressed to.
Here's the
come
new
back
tank
to a
location.
meeting.
If part of what we were talking about in this way back when was the idea that you might have this further water line development take place over whatever years. If this is only 350,000 gallons and we're taking offline 135,000 gallons here, there's no way we could take offline another 250,000 gallons over here and have the capacity to serve all this and any of this. This pumps would be running all day.
Not with 350,000.
No, no.
It's a 500.
But what I'm saying is if the water model shows that close to 600,000 gallons of water here allow us to also do away with the Blue Jay tank, now you would have enough capacity here to serve all the east side and bring on more to the south, because you've got a huge volume of water right here, right?
So
Expect water line.
it all depends on elevation.
What's the gallon usage per day?
What the actual usage is over there?
No, just for the city.
All for the city? All for the total city, you're about 1.2 gallons a day.
So you're pretty much eliminating all the third one down, the 565,000.
If we could do away with the Blue Jay tank, if we wanted to do away with the Blue Jay tank, we would have to do the third option, because that's the only one that would provide us with enough volume.
We need to think about expansion.
Like I said, we'll know real quick, pretty quick,
The only
whether or
down-
not that idea.
the only downside is just keeping the water mixed up enough. So all the,
You don't want to
You
have the
wouldn't-
water. You don't want to have the water sitting in the system too
Right.
But
long.
you wouldn't be concerned with that much, Jeff, if you're gonna use all of that volume in that tank for that whole east side.
Yeah.
That concern would go away.
that would go away.
Yeah.
So we don't need mixers and
Well, that's still pretty much it. That's pretty standard in all any other tanks.
How close would you be to maxing the capacity of that takeout then if you used it if you eliminated that?
If we eliminated that tank, maximum capacity of that,
Of the new tank,
Yes. How close would you be if you eliminated the Blue Jay tank to maxing out the capacity of the new tank if you put the bigger tank up here. I think that's what Dick was saying about future expansion of water needs too. Think about it. I don't know, something you could think about, I guess you would think about that.
Yeah, in other words, you're afraid that how big would we have to make that new tank?
No, I mean, if the new tank's 500,000 gallons,
Yeah,
easy round numbers, and the other one, if we eliminate Blue Jay, how big's Blue Jay?
250.
Right, so if you take that
And the
250 and
yeah,
put that
WCL.
demand on,
you're about
135.
we're giving up 100,000 gallons. We had 350 and 250, right? So that's 500 and some, close to 600,000 gallons. So, the new tank holds 565. You're not giving up a whole lot.
Well, Blue Jay holds 250.
Right.
WCLT holds 135.
See, that's the
Right.
difference.
So you're adding capacity.
350.
That Blue Jay, that WCLT tank is nothing but a way station for our water, and it
That's right.
doesn't last there very long.
No, it's in and out.
It's no longer,
Looks like a cigarette sticking up there.
yeah, it no longer really is functionally what we need, period.
Right.
I mean, we could almost bypass that tank and be better, and be just as well off. Except maybe Doug wouldn't have as good a water
They
pressure.
wouldn't even allow, CPA wouldn't even allow us to put that size tank in today. Because it's not meeting the fire demands like it should be.
So right now on the east side, we have 385 between WCLT and Blue Jay. We have 385,000 gallons in the air.
And you go to.
This would be 565,000 gallons in the air.
565.
And if you went a couple of feet higher on the tank too and bought even a little bit more, you could be close to 6.
Well, if you're doing away with a pump station and doing away with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I know we're getting speculative and we need to look at this thing first, but, you may want to make that tank a little bigger if it's going to
Make it a little bit higher,
a little bit higher, make it
Yep.
bigger.
make it 600,000 gallons.
And you could, because look at the money you got left.
That's right.
So we're taking water from the water plant, shipping it to the tanks,
Mhm.
and shipping it all out.
Yes. Yes.
How it works.
In the central part of the city, the pressure comes from the water plant pumps themselves. On the west side of town, we've got the new water tank across from John. That provides water pressure for the industrial area, the high pressure system. On the east side of town, we've got the pump stations that we just redid a few years ago on Licking View Drive. Those pumps pump the water into the WCLT tank. Then the water flows down out of the WCLT tank, down to the pump station that we have where Watson Road and Blue Jay Road fork. And then that pump station pumps the water up to the tank in Blue Jay. And then that Blue Jay tank is what gives me water pressure and gives Forest Hills water pressure, is that Blue Jay tank. So what I'm saying is if this tank could do away with both the WCLT and the Blue Jay tank, then all we would need to do is pump the water into that tank and gravity would take over.
You have 4 different pressure zones in the city. That's one of the pressure zones. So if that theory would work, you would go from 4 pressure zones to 3 pressure zones. It's a theory.
And you could take offline the pumps that make the pressure zones happen.
It just seems like we're spending $1.8 million for an in and out tank. It's not like a storage tank, it's an in and out tank.
Yep, it's to provide pressure. It's to get water up in the air,
But for 560.
to get pressure.
Made 2, not made 8.
Otherwise, we'd have to have a system like what we have that gives pressure up there on Laurel Oaks. If the water pressure drops up there in River Oaks on Laurel Oaks, then these pumps kick on. And the pumps themselves provide pressure. That's not an efficient way of doing it, right, John?
It's also
You want
for
gravity.
instantaneous flow from fire suppression.
That's where I'm at, that
If you want to kind of
but
think
we're-
about how it
we're
works,
pressuring it up into the tank.
you're pumping the water up into the tank.
Mhm.
And then that water maintains the pressure throughout the system.
A more controlled sustaining of pressure in a fire situation.
That's right. It gives you that extra volume. See, basically what we do, we only run 2 shifts out of the water plant. And in those 2 shifts, we're filling all the tanks up. This is kind of how it works. And all the tanks are filling up through the day. Okay? People are using it through the day too. And we're filling it through the day. Then at about, around 11 o'clock at night, the water plant shuts down. And people are using water out of the tanks. We can shut the plant down, and the pressure that's up in the tanks keeps all the systems pressurized. Okay. Then when that pressure gets so low, then we kick the plant on, and it fills everything back up again for the day. That's kind of how it works. That's the way we run it. I mean, you can run it so that it runs. You run it constantly around the clock if you want to. I don't know if we want to get into this.
I'd say let's breeze through wastewater and we'll be done.
Cost benefit, get a little values, keep it under the rate study. It's beneficial for market extension of the city, with prolonged rate increases for the consumer. How much longer? Capacity for future development. I think it's a no-brainer.
If that'll work.
That'll work.
That'll work.
That'll work.
Wait till it
With
works
those
first.
contingencies.
Then we start thinking about all of these options that we have.
Yeah.
Well,
Ronnie, you
Yeah,
got a
true.
question?
That's a good.
John, got a question behind you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you did go with, shutting the Blue Jay tank down, would it be practical or feasible or anything that you could bring it back into service if there was a problem with the other?
Yeah, you probably could. I don't know with a tank sitting empty like that what it would do to the tank. You wouldn't want it sitting there just full and not having water coming in and out of it.
Yeah.
That would have to be looked at.
Would you want it sitting there empty?
Yeah, you would have to rechlorinate it. It would take 24 hours to put it back in service.
Structurally, would it be sound, empty?
That's another thing.
Well, why would you bring it back online? I think it'd be
It would be an
for a
emergency.
maintenance issue where you have some lead time to plan for that.
If something catastrophic happened to the.
It would be an emergency. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. The only question I would have is, it being empty, would it become could it possibly be a hazard of some kind? Could the wind blow it over?
Yeah.
Could.
I mean, that's the question we've got on the WCLT.
Four-legged tanks, when you see the four-legged elevated tanks, those have to have water in them all the time, because if not, then they're susceptible to blowing over at a high wind storm.
What kind of ornaments move into a empty place once you live in a high?
Hopefully not. And you're right, if we did have to use it in an extreme case, we would have time to plan for it.
And one other thing to check if I can add, remember when we did the big tank out west here? Huggins was real concerned about what happened if there was a major fire. I don't quite as concerned whether that was.
Well, my concern is what happens if there's a major fire anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you plan for the best that you can, you meet what you can meet, and the only thing.
But there's a big difference though,
Right.
because on the west side, we got a lot of industry. On the east side, there isn't any, it's just residential. So, I mean,
That's why.
a 100,000 square foot manufacturing building, you could dump a lot of water on that. You can only dump so much water on it.
That's another reason why the priority for a dual feed to the west side is higher than a dual feed to the east side. Because of fire protection. In our rate study, we in 2016, I think it's 2016, we allowed money for a dual feed to the west side in that rate study.
And Chief Huggins was happy about this out here, because this did boost the pressure to the industrial park. He wanted
Yeah.
it, because we were too low.
And their insurance rates went down.
We had
Out there.
customers out here that had to put high-dollar pump systems in.
I mean,
to
there were
bring
some
the pressure
places.
they needed for their trench capital.
There were some places out on Wormwood Drive that only had about 30 PSI. That was it.
But I know there was just something he was concerned about.
Volume.
Well, they get concerned with a lot, but then what you gotta look at is there's two things you gotta look at when you look at that. I mean, you can go on forever and ever cost-wise.
Yeah.
How big is too big?
Yeah.
I mean, I could put 2 million gallon tank out there.
You could have 24-inch mains
Yeah.
running through
Do
there.
the citizens of Heath wanna pay for that for a
Yeah.
fire that may never happen?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's expensive.
Yeah.
You just gotta kind of do what you can do.
Playing the odds with your budget.
Yeah.
What you can afford.
Okay, we'll move along here real quick. Wastewater, we actually installed a new belt on the belt press, and I did have pictures of that.
I want to come see that. Check. Talk about in the press room there
Yeah.
where it cakes it and puts
Yeah.
it over in the.
I actually had pictures of that thing, and I'm not going to, but I don't want to get into it.
That's fine.
But
I'll stop by.
you want to take a look at that? We put a new belt press on. I actually, go ahead. About every 5
We
years.
ought to consider having a meeting, a service committee meeting out there once in a while, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed.
You got one?
I mean, beyond Youth and Government Day, I've never had any reason to be out there. But
You can do that. You can do it at the water plant one day and the wastewater plant one. Yeah, you're more than welcome.
once a year, maybe, once a year at the wastewater plant, maybe once a year at the water
No
plant.
objection to that at all.
Do wastewater when it's warmer. I mean, like next month. Because there's a lot of walking around. You're outdoors a lot if you're going to check stuff out. So do that when it's warmer.
You want to really get the odor going.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's not. Okay, so we installed that. This takes several city employees to thread the belt through the belt press. It's working real well right now. We are doing some repairs to it right now. There's the steering system. We ordered some parts for that. But it's relatively a quick fix. So everything should be up and running on that. Clarifier update. Clarifier is completely online. With currently working with a rebuilt drive and new paint. And I said this should give us 15 years without further maintenance. Employees also help with the clarifier rebuild, not involving engineer services.
Nice.
Scum concentrator, that's working right now. Not working right now, but it's in the process of being installed right now. The new scum concentrator. It was delivered around the 21st. They started installation today on the 24th. Mid Ohio Mechanicals doing the work for us. When I left today around 1 o'clock, it was put in place and bolted down. So I'm hoping by tomorrow we'll have that thing up and possibly running. One thing is though, through the night tonight, we will have to have some additional man hours involved there because we're actually manually running some of the stations. So there's going to be a little extra overtime involved in running it today until it does get online. And also again, the employees have saved a lot of money by engineering this replacement in-house. We had no engineers involved with this other than the installation of it. We did have them look at the style of scum concentrator that we wanted, and we made sure that the specifications and everything was what needed to go in there. We went from an all-steel scum concentrator to an all-stainless steel scum concentrator. So we should even get longer life out of this one than the one that we replaced. It's over 25 years old. Wastewater plant tour, that's what I was going to show you guys, but we can do that next month, at our next meeting. Also, major funds, or the balances in the major funds are on the sheets there too. And other than that, guys, if you got any questions, now's the time.
You said plant tour. Are you talking about in pictures or literally going?
He had video and
Actually,
pictures and
video
stuff
of the wastewater
built
plant.
into the PowerPoint.
Piggybacking on the mayor's comment, or,
Yeah.
maybe we'll just meet there next month.
I was going to say, why don't you instruct Lynn to give public notice of that? And just be prepared, rain or shine, bring umbrellas if it's going to rain. We'll walk around the plant after the
Water or wastewater?
wastewater.
Okay.
I just remind everybody at the meetings. I mean, when we have weather like this is the time we should be really out at the fire department, at the water department, at the wastewater department.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I have no
Don't
problem.
want to schedule one in February, but my gosh, anywhere from May to
supposed to be great weather.
May and October, you can get out and just see all this capital investment, all this stuff you're doing.
Excellent, excellent, excellent idea.
So that actually would be the 28th.
September 28th.
September 28th.
Then you want to have to supply pizza there at the water
I
department.
think so.
How do you want it, water or you want the wastewater?
Have we adjourned? Have we
Not
adjourned?
yet. We're coming up with the date and time.
I got you.
Yeah, let
Anybody
Lynn,
else have any comments, questions?
let Lynn know. Yeah. Tell her to give public notice of that, and it should be fine.
6:29, we're adjourned.
Thanks, John.
28th of September. 9/28, so September 28th.
Yes.
Just have it at the wastewater